The first scream never made it past her lips. That was the strangest thing about Elena Hartley. Even when the world inside her was burning, she stayed silent. For 10 long years, the daughter of a billionaire lived like a ghost inside her own life, a girl who walked through marble hallways with the quietness of someone who had forgotten what a voice even felt like. But on this particular morning, something was different. The sun had barely risen over the Hartley estate when the staff found Elena standing barefoot on the cold balcony tiles, staring at the city below. Her hair, usually perfectly brushed by hired stylists, fell loosely around her shoulders, and for the first time in years, there were tears on her face. Nobody knew why. Nobody dared to ask. Everyone simply whispered the same rumors they had for a decade. She hasn't spoken since the incident. She's stuck in her own head. Trauma like that, it never leaves. Inside the mansion, her father, billionaire mogul Graham Hartley, was preparing for yet another charity event. Not because he cared, but because his public image demanded it. Reporters would arrive. Cameras would flash. Investors would nod at him with admiration. But upstairs, his daughter stood frozen, clutching the railing, shaking, as if some unseen memory had risen from the depths to remind her that silence doesn't always mean peace. And outside the estate gates, a rusted school bus approached, carrying a group of kids from the poorest neighborhood in the city. Kids who had seen struggle, hunger, and survival up close. Among them was Malik Turner ***, a 16-year-old black boy with a calm face, determined eyes, and the kind of quiet strength you only earn from pain. He had no idea where this bus was taking him. He didn't know these gates belonged to one of the richest men in America. And he definitely didn't know that the silent girl on the balcony would become the center of the most life-changing moment he'd ever witness. All he knew was this: sometimes life takes you exactly where you're needed, even when you don't understand why. As Malik stepped off the bus and looked up, his eyes locked with hers, the silent heiress with trembling hands. Neither of them spoke. Neither of them moved. But what they didn't know would change everything. Elena Hartley didn't grow up in a home. She grew up in a museum disguised as one. Every room in the Hartley mansion was polished to perfection: glossy floors, glass staircases, overpriced art hanging on walls that had never heard laughter. The staff moved quietly, like shadows trained not to disturb the billion-dollar calmness that Graham Hartley demanded. But inside that flawless world lived a girl who carried a storm behind her eyes. Elena spent most mornings the same way, sitting by the wide bedroom window, knees tucked to her chest, tracing shapes on the glass with her fingertip. She liked the coldness. It made her feel present, real, grounded. Because when you haven't spoken for 10 years, you need anything that reminds you you're still alive. She didn't choose silence. Silence chose her, the day something in her childhood shattered so loudly that her voice never returned. Even now, at 17, she still felt like that same little girl who had curled up in the dark, begging the world to stop spinning so fast. But outside her door, her father was trying to spin it even faster. Graham Hartley, billionaire, philanthropist, business genius, walked the hallways with the confidence of a man who believed success could fix anything. His suits cost more than most people's yearly rent. His smile was always perfectly timed. His handshake was rehearsed. But behind his flawless image lived guilt so heavy it bent his shoulders, though he'd never admit it. He loved his daughter. He feared his daughter. He couldn't understand his daughter. And so he did what he always did. He poured money on the problem, hoping it would drown. Therapists, specialists, private schools, silent retreats, treatments so expensive they didn't even have names. Nothing worked. Because money can buy help. But it can't buy healing. This morning, Graham paced his office while his assistant updated him on the day's charity schedule. A community visit from students of Lincoln Heights, the poorest district in the city. "This event boosts your public approval by 12%, the assistant said, scrolling on her tablet. Graham nodded. 12% mattered. His daughter's silence was an unsolvable inconvenience he'd learned to live with. Downstairs, the staff rushed to prepare, arranging tables, setting up art displays, ironing napkins as if their lives depended on the crease. Meanwhile, at the back entrance of the house, a rusted yellow school bus creaked to a stop. A teacher stepped out, adjusting his tired tie, followed by a line of teens whose shoes told the story of every road they had walked. Among them, Malik Turner ***. Malik had the posture of a boy who'd learned early not to draw attention. Shoulders relaxed, hands in pockets, eyes scanning quietly. He didn't speak unless necessary, not because he was shy, but because most of the time, talking didn't change anything. His life in Lincoln Heights was a daily test of survival. Gunshots at night, sirens before dawn. Kids disappearing, parents breaking. Hopes thinning like worn fabric. He lived with his grandmother, a gentle woman with tired hands and a sharp tongue. She raised him on tough love and long prayers, both of which he needed. Malik's father was in prison. His mother had vanished when he was 8. And his little sister had been taken by the system. After a night he still relived in his dreams. He had failed to protect her, and that wound lived in him like a shadow that never left. But Malik didn't wear his pain loudly. He carried it with dignity, like armor. When he stepped into the mansion's courtyard, he felt the air shift, not because of the luxury, but because of the eyes. Staff members scanned the group with subtle suspicion, their smiles tight, their glances sharp. To them, the kids from Lincoln Heights were charity cases walking into a kingdom they didn't belong in. Malik noticed. He always noticed. He shoved his hands deeper into his pockets and inhaled slowly. Then, like fate tapping him on the shoulder, he looked up. There she was. The silent girl. The one whose eyes had found his an hour earlier. Elena stood on the upper balcony again, now dressed for the event in a soft beige dress that made her look even more fragile. But fragility wasn't the real word. She didn't look weak. She looked locked. Like someone whose soul was pressing against a door she didn't know how to open. Their eyes met again, this time longer. There was no fear, no judgment, no discomfort. Just curiosity. Malik tilted his head slightly in a silent greeting. To his surprise, Elena blinked in a slow, almost hesitant acknowledgement. It was the smallest gesture, but for someone who hadn't willingly reacted to anyone in years. It meant something. Graham, watching from a distance, frowned when he noticed the interaction. He didn't like unknown variables. He didn't like outsiders close to his daughter. And he especially didn't like unpredictability. As the students were guided inside, Malik caught one more glimpse of Elena before she disappeared around a corner. She moved like someone who knew exactly where every shadow lived in her house and avoided all of them. Inside the mansion, Malik's group was assigned tasks for the interactive charity workshop, which was a fancy way of saying, let the poor kids help set up the event so they feel included. Malik didn't mind. Work was easy. Life was hard. As he lifted a heavy art plaque and positioned it against the wall, he sensed someone watching him. He turned. Elena stood across the room, half hidden behind a pillar, observing him like he was a puzzle she couldn't figure out. For a moment the room felt smaller. Malik straightened the plaque, dusted his hands, and gave her a small, respectful nod, simple, non-intrusive, human. Something softened in her gaze. Something unspoken. Something awakening. And for the first time in 10 silent years, Elena Hartley didn't feel invisible. She felt seen. She didn't know his name. He didn't know her story. But destiny had already placed their lives on a collision course neither of them could escape. And the world, the loud, broken, painful world, was about to crack open the silence she'd been trapped in for a decade. Because sometimes the person who changes everything is the one who arrives with nothing. Rayan had always been the kind of man who noticed the smallest details, how people shifted when they lied, how their voices trembled when they were scared, how their eyes darted when they were hiding something. Years of working as a late-night diner server had turned him into an observer of humanity's rawest moments. At 2 a.m., people didn't wear masks. They showed their truth. But even with all his instincts, he never saw asterisk this night coming. The diner was unusually quiet. Rain hammered the windows like impatient fingers tapping to be let in. Neon lights flickered outside, spilling red and blue glows across the empty booths. The coffee machine hissed softly, the only sign of life besides Rayan himself wiping down the counter for the 10th time. It was supposed to be a normal shift, 4 more hours, a slow walk home, and hopefully enough tips to cover his sister's medicine for the week. He didn't know his life was about to twist into something unrecognizable. The door chimed. Rayan looked up, expecting the usual drunk couple, the tired trucker, maybe the lonely writer who came in sometimes for bottomless coffee. Instead, a woman stepped inside, so soaked that water pooled instantly beneath her. Her hair clung to her face, her breath shaky and fast, like she had been running for miles. Her clothes were dark and simple, but her eyes held a storm louder than the one outside. She scanned the diner like she was searching for threats, not a warm seat. Rayan felt his spine straighten. Something was wrong. She walked toward the farthest booth in the corner, the one where no one could see you unless they really tried. She slid in, keeping her back against the wall. Then she pulled her hands onto the table, and he saw it, blood smeared across her knuckles. Not just rain, blood. He froze for a heartbeat. Not enough to scare her, but just enough to know every instinct inside him whispered danger. He slowly approached, towel still in hand. "Rough night?" he asked gently. She looked at him like his voice itself might be a trap. "I need hot water," she whispered, "and a strong coffee." Her voice trembled, but her gaze stayed sharp, calculating. Rayan nodded, even though 1,000 questions raced through his mind. On it. He walked away, the hairs on his neck rising. She wasn't drunk. She wasn't a victim of a simple accident. Something or someone was chasing her. While he prepared her drink, the door chimed again. A man walked in this time. Tall, clean suit, dry, too dry for this weather. He scanned the diner calmly, like he expected to find someone hiding inside. When his eyes landed on the far corner booth, he frowned. It wasn't a normal frown, it was the type a predator gives when it finds its prey wounded but still breathing. Rayan's stomach flipped. The woman saw him too. Her fingers tightened so hard around the edge of the table that her knuckles whitened under the blood. The suited man approached the counter first. "Evening," he said smoothly. "You seen a woman come in here, mid-20s, dark hair, looks distressed." Rayan didn't answer immediately. He wasn't stupid. He had seen enough crime, enough fear, enough broken people to know when someone was running for their life. The woman in the corner had looked like she was carrying the weight of the world, while the man in front of him looked like he wanted to put that weight 6 feet underground. "What's she to you?" Rayan asked calmly. The suited man smiled, a practiced empty smile. "Family business." Rayan had heard that tone before, from people who settled their family business with fists or bullets. Before Rayan could respond, the woman's voice cut through the silence. "He's lying." Every muscle in the diner tightened at once. Both men turned toward her. She stood up, not tall, not imposing, but trembling with a mix of fear and defiance. "His name is Ethan Pierce," she said. "He works for a private firm, not government, not police, and if you give me to him, I'm dead within the hour." She wasn't shouting. She didn't need to. Her voice carried the weight of truth soaked in desperation. Ethan's smile vanished. "Sit down," he told her quietly. "Don't make this harder." She shook her head. "You made it hard the minute you killed them." The diner air froze. Rayan felt his breath catch. "Killed who?" He looked at Ethan. The man's jaw tightened, a crack in his perfectly calm facade, a dangerous crack. Rayan placed the coffee slowly on the counter. "Look," he said carefully, "if there's a situation, we can call the police. Let them sort it out." Ethan turned his gaze to Rayan, calm, chilling, cold. "Step out of this," he warned. "This has nothing to do with you." Rayan felt something inside him flare. Anger, maybe fear, maybe both. Because he had seen people threatened before. Seen powerful men crush weaker ones just because they could. And he had promised himself years ago, after losing people he cared about, that he would never stand by and watch it happen again. "Everything that happens in my diner," Rayan said slowly, "has something to do with me." Ethan stepped closer. "Last chance, where is she going?" Rayan looked at the woman. She didn't dare speak, but her eyes pleaded one word. "Help." Rayan made his decision. He stepped between them. "You need to leave." The corner of Ethan's lip twitched, not amusement, annoyance. "You don't know who you're protecting," he said. She's not innocent. Maybe, Rayan replied. But she's scared, and bleeding, and running, and you're calm and dry in a storm with questions instead of help, so forgive me if I trust her more. Ethan stared at him for a long moment. Then he sighed. You should have stayed out of it. Ethan's hand moved fast toward his coat. Rayan didn't think. Instinct took over. He grabbed the metal coffee pot behind the counter and slammed it against Ethan's wrist. The man hissed, stumbling back as the pot clattered to the floor. For 1 second, just one, the diner became the center of a silent war. The woman didn't waste it, she ran. Go, Rayan shouted, vaulting over the counter. Ethan recovered almost immediately, sprinting after her. Rayan caught him by the shoulder, pulling him back so hard the man crashed into a booth. The table cracked under the impact. Ethan rose with fury in his eyes. You're making a mistake you can't undo. I've made plenty, Rayan said. One more won't kill me. But the truth was, this one just might. The woman reached the back exit, pushing through the metal door into the rain. Rayan blocked Ethan long enough for her to disappear into the alley. Ethan realized it too. His fury sharpened into something icy. This isn't over, he hissed. Not for her and definitely not for you. He shoved past Rayan, sprinting out the front door and disappearing into the storm. For a long moment, the diner was silent except for Rayan's heavy breathing and the steady drip of rain from the ceiling. He leaned against the counter, heart pounding. He didn't know her name. He didn't know what she'd done. He didn't know why a man like Ethan Pierce wanted her dead. But he knew one thing without doubt. He had just stepped into a war he didn't understand. And storms, real storms, didn't start with thunder. They started quietly with a single choice. The kind he had just made. Sometimes an entire life changes not with a gunshot, not with a scream, but with a single moment of courage you don't even realize is bravery until it's too late. Rayan had no idea that the woman he just protected wasn't just running from danger. She was the danger, and saving her meant he had just placed a target on his own back. Forever. Rain swallowed the alley behind the diner, turning the narrow path into a dark river. Rayan pushed open the back door, heart hammering as he looked around for the woman he had just risked everything for. The storm blurred everything into streaks of gray and black. Thunder cracked above him, shaking the metal dumpsters around the alley. He stepped out cautiously. Hello, he called. You need to get out of the open. No answer. Only the wind. He took a few steps forward, shoes splashing in shallow puddles. His breath fogged in the cold air. He knew Ethan Pierce wasn't far. Men like him didn't give up. They hunted until their trail ended in blood. Rayan checked behind the dumpster. Nothing. Behind the rusted fire escape. Nothing. The alley wasn't long, which meant she couldn't have gone far unless she'd collapsed somewhere. Hey, he said again, raising his voice above the rain. You're bleeding, let me help you. A faint shuffle sounded behind him. He spun. The woman leaned against the brick wall, clutching her wounded hand, breathing hard. Her face was pale, lips trembling, but her eyes were alert, too alert. She had the gaze of someone who'd been surviving on instinct for far too long. You shouldn't have followed, she said weakly. Yeah, he replied, stepping closer. Well, you shouldn't be standing here soaked and injured while a psychopath in a suit wants you dead. She managed the smallest, exhausted smile. That's not entirely inaccurate. Her legs buckled. Rayan grabbed her before she hit the ground. Whoa, easy, easy. He guided her farther into the alley where the rain didn't hit directly. You lost a lot of blood. It's not mine, she whispered. That answer hit him like ice water. Not hers. But he didn't push, not now. He inspected her hand, noticing a deep cut across her palm. You need a bandage, stitches maybe. No hospitals, she said immediately, gripping his arm with surprising strength. No police, no names, no records. You're really making this easy, he muttered. She gave no reaction. He removed his apron, tore off a clean section, and tightly wrapped her hand. She winced but didn't complain. Whatever she had been through, physical pain was the least of her worries. When he was done, she pulled her hand back and looked straight at him. Why did you help me? She asked. The question caught him off guard. He thought about lying, about saying it was instinct or duty or some moral compass, but honesty slipped out before he could stop it. "You look terrified," he said, "and I've seen too many people like that left alone." Her eyes softened just a fraction. "You shouldn't get involved. Ethan is dangerous. His employers are worse." "Who are they?" "I can't tell you." "Why, because I'm a stranger?" "No," she said quietly, "because knowing puts a target on you, and you already painted one the second you stepped between us." Rayan swallowed hard. "So what now?" he asked. She scanned the alley. "Now, we disappear before he comes back with backup." She tried to stand again but stumbled. Rayan caught her a second time. "You can barely walk." She stared at him like she hated needing help. "There's a safe place I can reach, but I can't get there alone." "Then I'm coming with you." "Rayan," she said softly, surprising him by using his name even though he was sure he hadn't told her. "If you come with me, your life will never be the same. Hasn't been the same since you walked into my diner." She looked away, as if overwhelmed by the weight of his answer. Then she nodded. "Fine, but we need to move now." Rayan wrapped her arm around his shoulder, letting her lean on him. Together, they slipped down the alley and toward the darkened street. For a moment, the storm swallowed them whole. They moved fast, staying close to walls, avoiding streetlights. Rayan guided her through familiar shortcuts, laundromats, closed shops, abandoned lots. Every sound made her flinch. Every passing car made her tense. She kept scanning rooftops and windows as if expecting a rifle scope to appear any second. After 10 minutes, they ducked into an underpass where the rain couldn't reach. The woman finally spoke again. "My name is Zara." Rayan nodded. "Nice to actually know what to call you." "We don't have much time," she whispered. "Ethan will triangulate our direction." "Triangulate? You're either military or something close." Zara hesitated. Then she slowly pulled a small metal device from her jacket, a square tracker no bigger than a matchbox. It blinked red once before turning off. Rayan stared. Did you seriously steal that from Ethan when he grabbed you?" "Borrowed," she corrected, "to delay his tracking." "You call that delayed? He'll notice it missing in minutes." "Exactly why we need to keep moving." She pushed herself toward the end of the underpass, wobbling slightly. He followed, ready to catch her again. "Zara," he said, "whatever you're mixed up in." "I didn't choose it," she interrupted. "I was taken, trained, used, and when I tried to leave, they erased me." His footsteps faltered, erased. No identity, no home, no history, just missions, orders, and consequences. She stopped walking. "For years, I did what they asked because I thought it would someday earn me freedom," she said. "But instead, it earned me enemies, including Ethan." "Why does he want you dead?" Zara looked at him, really looked at him. "Because I found something I wasn't supposed to." "What?" She shook her head. "Not here, we need shelter first." They continued through narrow side streets, the storm pounding harder. When they reached a small bridge overlooking a half-flooded park, Zara suddenly grabbed his arm. "Down," she hissed. They ducked behind a stone wall. A black SUV rolled past, slow and predatory. Its windows were tinted. Its headlights scanned the street like searching eyes. Rayan's stomach knotted. "Ethan," he whispered. "Not him," Zara murmured. "His team." The SUV paused. Rayan held his breath so long his chest burned. Finally, it kept moving, disappearing down the street. Zara released a shaky breath. "They're closing in faster than I expected." "You think they followed the blood trail?" Rayan asked. "Not the blood, me." She tapped the side of her neck. "They injected a tracker into my skin weeks ago." "What then how?" "I cut it out." Rayan's face twisted. "That wound on your hand." "A distraction. The real one's on my shoulder." She winced, touching her upper arm. Rayan stared at her in disbelief. This wasn't a normal runaway. She was a trained asset, someone who'd survived hell. And now hell was following her. "You okay?" he asked. "No," she admitted, "but I don't have the luxury of collapsing yet." She looked beyond the bridge, studying the layout of the streets like a soldier calculating an escape route. "There's a place 2 miles from here," she said. "An old safe house. If we reach it, I can access my files." Files. Proof of what Ethan's people did. Evidence strong enough to take them down. And they want to kill you to erase that proof. She didn't respond. She didn't have to. Rayan rubbed his face. So this is bigger than I thought. Zara nodded slowly. This is bigger than both of us. For a long moment, they simply breathed in the damp air of the storm. Then Zara pushed herself onto her feet again. We keep moving. And so they did. Step by step. Street by street. With danger tightening its grip around them. They reached the outskirts of the city where old industrial buildings towered over empty lots. Their footsteps echoed against cracked pavement. The storm had turned into a soft drizzle, but the danger hadn't softened with it. Zara moved slower now. Every few steps she paused, hand tightening on her side. Her face had lost what little color she had left. Rayan kept glancing at her, torn between pushing forward and forcing her to rest. We need to stop, he said finally. We can't, she whispered. You're about to pass out. That's why we can't stop. Her stubbornness was both impressive and terrifying. Whatever waited for her at the safe house was the only thing keeping her upright. They cut through an old rail yard. Rusted tracks snaked across the ground, disappearing into darkness. In the distance, a single light glowed inside an abandoned storage building. Zara froze. Rayan whispered, "What is it?" That light wasn't there before. You think it's them? Zara sank into a crouch, watching the building with cold calculation. Ethan's team wouldn't use a visible light. They move like shadows. So who's inside? That's what worries me. Rayan glanced behind them. Every shadow felt like a threat. Do we go around? He asked. There is no around. The bridge collapsed months ago. This is the only path to the safe house. Zara leaned against a rusted metal beam, her breath shuddering. We wait, watch. Minutes crawled by. The light flickered again, soft, warm, inconsistent. Not tactical, not strategic, more like someone trying to stay warm. Could be a homeless person, Rayan said. Zara nodded slowly. Possible. Is that bad? It's unpredictable, she murmured. People talk, people panic, people sell information for cash. Rayan let out a slow breath. Then let's talk to them first, before they talk to anyone else. Zara hesitated. Her instincts screamed against it, but time was bleeding out with every pulse of her wound. Fine, she said, but let me approach first. They moved close to the building, stepping carefully on broken glass and warped wooden planks. Zara pressed her back to the wall, tilted her head, listening for movement. A soft cough echoed from inside. Zara pushed the door open slowly. A teenage boy, maybe 17, sat inside on a crate. He wore a dirty jacket and held a small battery-powered lantern. When he saw her, he jumped back, hands raised. I am not doing anything, I swear. Rayan stepped in behind her. We're not here to cause trouble. The boy stared at the two of them, Zara's blood-stained clothes, her trembling posture, Rayan's drenched uniform. Confusion and fear mixed in his eyes. I'm Malik, he said slowly. I just needed a place to stay. I ain't seen nobody else. Zara studied him with sharp eyes, searching for lies. You're alone. Yeah, been alone for months. He looked tired in a way no kid should. Rayan softened. We just need to cross through. Malik shifted. I don't want trouble. There was a fancy car out here earlier. Black one, windows too dark to see inside. I hid until it drove off. Zara's jaw tightened. How long ago? Maybe 20 minutes. Rayan exchanged a look with her. Not good, not even close. Malik, Rayan said gently. If anyone else comes looking, did you talk to them? No, Malik said quickly. I just hid. I don't talk to nobody. What direction did they go? Zara asked. Malik pointed toward the rail yard entrance. That way. Meaning they were minutes behind. Zara turned to Rayan. We need to move now. Malik watched them gather themselves. His expression shifted from fear to something else. Worry. You guys running from someone. Rayan hesitated. Something like that. Malik looked at Zara's drenched bandages. You're hurt. Zara stiffened, ready to deflect, but Malik stepped closer, hesitant. I've seen that look, he said softly. My mom used to get it before she passed. That looked like you're trying to stay strong for someone else. For a second, Zara's guard dropped. Just a second. But it was enough for Malik to understand something dangerous was chasing them. Zara exhaled shakily. We don't want to drag you into this. Malik shrugged. Too late, you walked in my door, and I don't turn my back on people running from monsters. His voice wavered, but it was brave. Rayan offered a small smile. Appreciate it, man, but we'll be out of here in minutes. Malik hesitated. Then he reached into his backpack and pulled out a small folded map. The safe paths through the yard, he said. Old workers used to use them. No cameras, no open sightlines. Zara unfolded it. Her eyes widened slightly. This is perfect, she whispered. Malik pointed. Take this route, keep low. If that car comes back, you'll be hidden under the service bridge. Why help? Zara asked quietly. Malik swallowed. Because no one helped my family when we needed it, and I guess I'm tired of watching people walk away. Something flickered in Zara's expression. A painful memory, a longing, maybe even guilt. She folded the map gently. Thank you. Malik nodded. As they stepped out of the building, Rayan turned back. Stay inside. Don't open the door for anyone. Malik nodded again, gripping his lantern like a lifeline. Zara and Rayan sprinted through the rail yard, sticking to the hidden path. The map guided them around puddles, collapsed structures, and open areas where they'd be visible. Halfway through, Zara's legs buckled. She dropped to one knee, gasping. Rayan grabbed her shoulders. Zara, look at me. She lifted her head, eyes glazed. I'm fine, she whispered. You're not, you're losing too much blood. No, she insisted. I just need to reach the safe house. Rayan pulled her close as she struggled to stand. Her body leaned heavily against him, barely holding on. When they reached the end of the yard, the safe house finally came into view. A small, nearly invisible building tucked behind a cluster of dead trees and old machinery. Zara let out a broken breath. Almost there. But then, a voice echoed behind them. Well, it said calmly, isn't this touching? Rayan froze. Zara's eyes widened with fear. They turned slowly. Ethan Pierce stood between the rail tracks, umbrella in hand, suit immaculate despite the storm. Behind him, two men stepped out of the shadows. How did you? Rayan started. Ethan smiled. You didn't really think a missing tracker would stop me, did you? Zara's entire body tensed. Rayan, run. Ethan lifted a hand. No need for dramatics, I only need her. His men stepped forward. Zara pushed Rayan back, but she nearly collapsed doing it. Rayan caught her. I'm not leaving you. Ethan sighed. I was hoping you'd say that, makes this more interesting. The men closed in. Zara whispered, barely audible, Rayan, I'm sorry. He tightened his grip around her, bracing himself. The rising action tightened into a single point of inevitability. The moment before everything exploded. The night sky over the city seemed strangely silent, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Inside the abandoned steel factory at the edge of Riverstone, Malik felt the weight of every second crushing his chest. His hands trembled, not with fear for himself, but for the boy tied to a rusted chair in the center of the room, Noah. The child looked exhausted, bruised, his small face blotched with dried tears. Malik wanted nothing more than to run to him, untie him, and hold him close. But he couldn't, not with Lucas and his men blocking every exit like wolves guarding their prey. Lucas stood in front of Noah, running a finger under the boy's chin, taunting not just him, but Malik's very soul. The billionaire wore that same mocking smile he always had, the one Malik had seen on the security cameras years ago. The smile he'd spent a decade trying to forget. You've been a very bad father figure, Lucas sneered, pacing slowly. You hide a boy for 10 years, tell him lies, pretend he's not the son of the most powerful family in this city. That's kidnapping, Malik. I could destroy you for that alone. Noah's lip trembled. I'm not your son, he whispered. I don't want to go with you. Lucas chuckled darkly. Of course you do, you just don't know it yet. Malik clenched his fist so hard his nails dug into his skin. Leave him alone, he said. He's just a kid. Wrong, Lucas said. He's an asset. He snapped his fingers. Two guards stepped forward, pointing guns at Malik. Lucas leaned closer to Noah, lowering his voice into a cold whisper. Your mother may have fooled everyone, even the courts, but the truth always comes out, and tonight it comes home. Noah's eyes darted to Malik, silently begging for help. Malik took a step forward. If you lay a single hand on him. Lucas cut him off. You'll what? Sweep another floor aggressively? Yell, cry. You're nobody, Malik, you always were. Malik's heart pounded like thunder. He'd lived through humiliation, poverty, the loss of his sister, threats from Lucas's company, and years of raising a child in hiding. But this moment, seeing Noah scared and shaking, ignited something inside him that he didn't know still existed. Courage. He straightened, meeting Lucas's eyes. You're wrong about one thing, Malik said quietly. I'm not nobody, not to him. Lucas rolled his eyes. Spare me the inspirational speech. I want the truth. He reached into his coat and pulled out a folder thin but heavy in implication. Do you think I didn't hire investigators, doctors, DNA labs overseas? He threw the folder at Malik's feet. Papers scattered. Photos, test results. Documents Malik didn't understand but recognized instantly. They proved everything. Noah was indeed Lucas's biological son. The room spun around Malik. For years, he believed Noah belonged to someone else, an anonymous man who had walked away. But this changed everything. Lucas smirked as Malik froze. You didn't know, did you? All that moral superiority, all that righteous anger, and you were just as clueless as everyone else. Noah cried out, Malik, don't leave me. That single sentence snapped Malik out of the spiral. He took a deep breath, and then he said the words that would define his life forever. I'm not here to fight biology. I'm here to protect my child. Something flickered in Lucas's expression. Not empathy, more like disbelief. He hadn't expected defiance. He'd expected Malik to break. But Malik took another step forward, ignoring the guns pointed at his chest. You think you can buy loyalty with money, Malik said. But Noah doesn't want your world. He doesn't want mansions or limos or bodyguards. He wants safety. He wants stability. He wants kindness. Malik's voice shook with emotion. He wants family, and you have no idea how to be one. Lucas let out a cold laugh. Do you think I need to be a father? I just need custody, and after tonight I will have it, permanently. He nodded at his men. A guard cocked his gun. Noah screamed no. Malik raised his hands but didn't back away. If you kill me, you'll have to explain why a billionaire murdered the man who raised his child. Think about the headlines. Think about the police. Think about the world watching you. Lucas hesitated, only for a second. But it was enough. A loud explosion shattered the tension. The door blew open, metal tearing off its hinges as bright light flooded the room. Shouts echoed. Boots thundered against concrete. Police. Real ones. Detective Ramirez stormed in, gun raised, shouting, "Drop your weapons." Lucas spun around, furious. You idiots, stop them. But his guards, rattled and outnumbered, froze as officers swarmed in. Malik stood still, eyes locked on Noah, desperate to run to him but afraid a single wrong move would cause chaos. Ramirez aimed directly at Lucas. Step away from the boy. Lucas snarled, Do you know who I am? Ramirez didn't blink. A kidnapping suspect caught on camera, a man under federal investigation, and someone who's about to get handcuffs for accessories to attempted murder. Everything was unraveling around Lucas. Still, he refused to let go. He grabbed Noah by the shoulder, pulling him close like a human shield. Noah winced in pain. Lucas shouted, Back off, he's mine. That was the breaking point. Malik didn't think. He moved. A burst of adrenaline flooded his body. Years of suppressed anger and fear exploded into action. He lunged forward, knocking over a toolbox, sending metal clattering across the floor. The distraction lasted only a second, but it was enough. Malik sprinted toward Lucas with everything he had. Lucas turned, gun drawn, shaking with rage. A shot rang out. Noah screamed, but Malik didn't fall. The bullet had embedded itself in a steel beam behind him. Ramirez tackled Lucas from behind, slamming him against the ground. Officers piled on, wrestling the gun from his hand. Lucas thrashed, roaring like a trapped animal. You can't take him. He's my son, my legacy. Ramirez tightened the cuffs. You lost that right the moment you tried to destroy an innocent life. Malik didn't watch the rest. He ran straight to Noah, dropping to his knees and pulling the boy into his arms. Noah clung to him, shaking violently. I was so scared, Noah sobbed. I thought you wouldn't come. Malik hugged him tighter, tears spilling from his eyes. I will always come for you, always. The building echoed with police radios, shouts, clanking metal, and Lucas's distant rage. But all Malik heard was Noah's heartbeat against his chest. Officers cleared the area, leading Lucas away, still screaming threats no one cared about anymore. Ramirez approached Malik, exhaustion lining her face. You two okay? Malik nodded slowly. We're alive, that's enough. She gave a faint smile. You did good, Malik. You protected him, even when the whole world was against you. Malik looked down at Noah, brushing the hair from his forehead. He protected me too, Malik whispered. Every day. Ramirez placed a hand on Malik's shoulder. Get him home, we'll take things from here. For the first time in years, Malik felt the crushing weight on his chest begin to lift. He stood, carrying Noah as the boy wrapped his arms around Malik's neck, refusing to let go. As they stepped out of the factory, dawn was beginning to rise, a soft orange glow stretching over the horizon. A new day, a new beginning. Malik breathed in the cold morning air, holding Noah closer than ever. Whatever battles were still ahead in court, in society, or in life, one thing was certain. He wasn't alone anymore. And neither was Noah. The sun had barely risen when Malik stepped out of the police station, carrying Noah in his arms. The city felt different this morning, not louder, not busier, but softer, as though the world itself had exhaled after a long night of danger and darkness. The sky was brushed with pale gold, and for the first time in years, Malik felt like he could breathe without fear pressing down on his lungs. Noah's grip around Malik's neck never loosened. Even outside, where the crisp air touched his bruised cheek, the boy clung to him with desperate strength. Malik didn't rush him. He didn't take a single step without making sure Noah felt safe. After everything the child had been through, this small act of holding on meant everything. Ramirez walked out behind them, rubbing her tired eyes. She'd been awake all night, supervising statements, securing evidence, and ensuring Lucas was processed properly. But despite her exhaustion, she still managed a faint smile when she saw Malik looking up at her. Social Services wants to talk to you tomorrow morning, she said gently. Don't panic, it's just procedure. After a case like this, they need official confirmation about guardianship arrangements. Malik nodded, though an invisible weight pressed against his chest at the reminder. They won't take him away, right? Ramirez shook her head. No, not after what Lucas did. The court isn't blind. Noah's testimony, your years of care, your character, witnesses, everything supports you. She paused, then added, and the fact that Lucas tried to kidnap his own son at gunpoint, that seals it. Noah trembled and buried his face into Malik's shoulder. Malik gently pressed a kiss to the boy's hair. Hey, he whispered, we're going home, that's all that matters now. Ramirez squeezed Malik's arm before heading off. Get some rest, both of you. The ride home was quiet. Noah rested against Malik, eyes half closed, as if sleep tugged at him, but the fear of losing Malik again kept him awake. Malik drove slowly, careful with every turn, every bump, every stretch of road. The morning traffic began to thicken, but inside Malik's old car, everything felt still cocooned. When they arrived at their small apartment, Noah hesitated at the doorway. Malik crouched down to meet his eyes. You're safe, he said softly. You're home. Only then did Noah step inside. Malik locked the door behind them, checked the windows twice, and made sure the curtains were closed. Not because Lucas could come back, he was in custody, surrounded by police and reporters. No, Malik checked everything because Noah needed to see it, needed to know he wouldn't be taken again. The apartment smelled faintly of breakfast he'd made the day before, an aroma of eggs and toasted bread that lingered in the air. Malik hadn't had time to clean. Everything was exactly as they'd left it. Malik's boots by the sofa, Noah's crayons scattered near the coffee table, a half-finished drawing taped to the fridge. A drawing of the two of them, hand in hand, smiling. Malik felt his throat tighten. Noah walked in slowly, scanning every corner as if afraid it wasn't real. Afraid he'd blink and find himself back in that cold warehouse. Malik placed a gentle hand on the boy's back. What do you want first? Food, shower, sleep. Noah didn't answer. Instead, he whispered, "Can I sit with you?" Malik felt something inside him crack, not in pain, but in overwhelming tenderness. "Yeah," he said softly, "come here." He sat on the couch, and Noah curled into his side like a small, tired animal finally finding shelter after a storm. Malik wrapped an arm around him, rubbing slow circles on his back. They stayed like that for almost an hour. No talking, no questions, just breathing. Eventually, Noah's breath grew steady and soft, and his body relaxed. He had fallen asleep. Malik rested his chin on top of Noah's head, the boy's heartbeat warming his chest. His own eyes burned with exhaustion, but he didn't dare sleep. Not yet. He wanted to be awake to protect Noah, to make sure nothing, absolutely nothing, could hurt him again. It wasn't until late afternoon that Noah finally stirred. Malik realized he hadn't eaten since the previous day, and Noah's stomach growled quietly. Malik smiled. "Sounds like someone's hungry." Noah sat up slowly, rubbing his eyes. Can we eat together?" "Always," Malik said. He cooked their usual comfort meal, simple scrambled eggs, a little cheese, warm toast, and tea with too much sugar. Noah ate quietly, watching Malik with tired but trusting eyes. Halfway through the meal, Noah spoke. "Do I have to go with him?" His voice cracked. Malik put down his fork. "No," he said firmly. "You won't go anywhere you don't want to. Lucas lost his chance the moment he chose violence." "But he's my father." The word sounded strange coming from Noah, as if it didn't fit. Malik leaned forward. "Being a father isn't about blood. It's not about DNA or last names. It's about who's there for you, who protects you, who loves you." His eyes softened. "I'm not trying to replace anyone. I'm just here, and I'm not going anywhere." Noah looked down at his plate, then back at Malik. "I choose you." Malik's throat closed up. He reached across the table and took Noah's hand gently. "And I choose you too," he said. They finished dinner quietly, but the air felt lighter. The storm had passed. They just needed time to heal. In the following days, news spread about Lucas. Arrested billionaire, attempted kidnapping, domestic violence allegations, fraudulent practices uncovered. The world finally saw the man behind the mask. Detective Ramirez checked in often, sometimes bringing groceries, sometimes just asking Noah about school, art, or music. She became more of a guardian angel than a detective. Social services visited as they had promised. They interviewed both Noah and Malik, inspected the apartment, reviewed school records, and listened to testimonies from neighbors who had watched Malik raise Noah like his own son. The reports were clear. Noah wasn't just safe with Malik. He thrived with him. The court hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Noah clung to Malik's hand the entire time as they walked into the courtroom. Reporters whispered. Camera flashes went off. Lawyers shuffled papers. Lucas was nowhere to be seen. His charges were so severe he wasn't allowed near Noah during the process. Instead, his attorney sat stiffly, clearly aware the case was already lost. When the judge entered, silence swept over the room. She reviewed the files for nearly an hour, reading carefully, asking Malik questions about Noah's upbringing, schooling, emotional health. Malik answered with absolute honesty, his voice shaking only when he mentioned the night of the kidnapping. Noah was invited to speak if he wished. He did. He stood up slowly, wearing a simple button-down shirt Malik had ironed 3 times that morning because he wanted Noah to look confident, composed, brave. Noah spoke quietly but clearly. "Malik has taken care of me my whole life," he said. "He feeds me, helps me, holds me when I'm scared, and he makes me feel safe. I don't want to live with anyone else. I want to stay with him." The courtroom seemed to hold its breath. The judge smiled gently. Her decision took less than 5 minutes. She ruled that Malik would remain Noah's full legal guardian, with permanent custody granted immediately and indefinitely. Lucas was banned from contact until further notice, pending criminal trials. As soon as the judge struck the gavel, Noah burst into tears and threw himself into Malik's arms. Malik knelt, holding him tightly. "It's over," he whispered. "No," Noah cried, shaking. "It's finally beginning." They walked out of the courthouse together, hand in hand. Ramirez was waiting outside, leaning against her car with a smile. "Told you," she said. "You two are unstoppable." Noah hugged her too, something he hadn't done before. Malik laughed softly through the exhaustion. "Thank you," he said. "Just doing my job," Ramirez replied. "But for what it's worth, I'm proud of you." When they finally got home, Noah ran to his room and came out with a small box. Malik sat beside him on the couch as Noah opened it. Inside were the little things Malik had given him over the years. A tiny keychain, a sticker, a feather brought from a park trip, a ticket from a museum visit. Small memories, priceless treasures. Noah placed the box in Malik's hands. "These are all the reasons I'm okay," he said. Malik wiped away tears he didn't try to hide. As the days turned into weeks, their life began to settle. Malik started a new job offered by the city thanks to Ramirez's recommendation, a position in community outreach helping at-risk youth. It wasn't glamorous, but it was meaningful, and Malik was good at it. Noah returned to school slowly, with counseling support and new friendships. Teachers reported he was smiling more, participating more, healing. They still had nightmares sometimes, both of them. Nights when Noah ran into Malik's room, trembling. Nights when Malik woke up checking the locks again and again. But now they healed together. Their home grew warmer, brighter, safer, and one quiet evening as they sat on the couch, Noah drawing, Malik reading, Noah rested his head against Malik's side and whispered, "Can we stay like this forever?" Malik kissed the top of his head. "Yes," he said, "forever and even longer." And for the first time in years, they both believed it. In a world that often judges by wealth, status, or bloodlines, true family isn't defined by titles or inheritance. It's defined by care, sacrifice, and love. Malik could not have chosen Noah, but he chose to protect him every single day. And in that choice, he became the father Noah needed, proving that courage, compassion, and loyalty are far stronger than money or power. Noah's story reminds us that even the smallest, most vulnerable voices deserve protection. Just because someone is overlooked or underestimated doesn't mean they are powerless. Sometimes, it takes one person willing to stand against injustice, to face danger, and to act selflessly to change the course of another life forever. Lucas, blinded by wealth and entitlement, believed that his title gave him control over life and death. But in the end, it was kindness, courage, and moral conviction that won. Strength is not measured by what you can take. It's measured by what you protect, nurture, and fight for. This story also teaches us that healing is a process, and redemption is earned through actions, not words. Malik and Noah remind us that scars, physical, emotional, or social, do not define the person. How we respond to pain, fear, and injustice does. Together, they found safety, stability, and trust, proving that even after trauma and loss, a new chapter is possible. So remember, heroes aren't always those with the highest rank or the loudest voice. They are those who choose to act when no one else will, who protect what is precious without asking for recognition, and who love when the world seems dark. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to be reminded that courage and kindness can change a life forever. Because sometimes, the smallest act of love is the loudest declaration of justice.